If you are a startup looking to grow in Cambridge, the Bradfield Centre offers a range of flexible membership packages which put you in control of your office and home working mix. There's a vibrant, collaborative atmosphere, on-site cafe, plenty of green outside space, and regular member social events. For more information, visit bradfieldcentre.com or call 01223 919 600.
Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
I'm Faye.
And I'm James. So Faye, how's your week been?
My week was very busy last week. We're going to talk about the Cambridge Tech Week launch, obviously, shortly. One thing that came up on the Cambridge Tech Week launch was I met with Nasmus from Anthrotech, who's going to come on. And
yeah, so did I.
Okay, so he got you as well. He won't mind us talking about that. Did he talk to you about video?
What, for the podcast itself?
Yeah. He's really trying to convince us that we should do video. And I'm like, I don't think anyone needs to see that. But anyway, so watch out for that one. But yeah, Nasmus is going to come on and he's going to bring different parts of Eve with him, which sounds slightly weird, but that'll be interesting. So yeah, let's talk about the launch event in a moment. We've been working on a lot of design stuff this week, which is great, gets all the creative juices flowing. And then on Thursday last week, I went to the Palmy Prize at Pembroke College, and it's another one of the very, very early stage entrepreneurship programs. So there were 5 people presenting there, really early stage. You know, these people are still doing their PhDs, you know, working out what the actual business are, but really interesting. One of them was Intercept X, who'd won 21 to Watch the week before. But the one who actually won it was a company called Kiseki, who are basically changing the profile of taste. So they've got this thing, there's a natural plant, it's called miraculin, and what they're trying to do is build a production technique that's used in biotech to repurpose all of this. So when you have it, it makes everything taste sweet, so you never have to have sweet things. So for me, it was a wild card. I thought they were really interesting. So that was a really nice thing to do. I was supposed to be at the Clean Tech party because it was their first anniversary of Barclays Eagle Labs opening the year before, but obviously I couldn't be in 2 places at once. So yeah, busy, normal to be honest, running around, busy old week, big presentation on Friday, and yeah, that was my week. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, outside obviously the stuff we did together, cooking up some new ideas. Had a lovely coffee with Jen Richardson. I think you did the same a few weeks ago, didn't you? And Jen's promised to wear a Raiders shirt the next time she comes into the Bradfield. We were talking about the NFL. I know how much you love the NFL talk. We need to bring that back onto the podcast.
Yeah, I was a bit like, and what does that even mean to me? I've got no idea. Very good. Well done. I can't wait to see Jen in a Raiders shirt. Are you going to wear one as well?
I normally do. I did have one on when I met her, so yeah. But yeah, it was a good week. Yeah, a really good week. So should we jump into the news?
Yeah, let's do that. So it was, as we've just mentioned, it was a launch of Tech Week over at Mills and Reeves. So really talking about the programme, and Dr. Nik Johnson was there as well to talk about the importance of the city for the rest of the region too. But also announced was serial tech entrepreneur Rupert Baines is going to be the chair of Cambridge Tech Week for this year. Very much about leading forward the programme, of making it global relevance. He's got a specific focus on deep tech. And he also said something really interesting, which was he feels that Cambridge Tech Week is a little bit like the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It has that kind of vibe, which I thought was quite interesting. And listeners will know, we've spoken about Rupert before on the podcast. He's a well-known semiconductor expert, formerly steered Ultrasoc, Codasip and QPT.
Yeah, next up, we first covered the partnership that Flictronic has forged with SpaceX back in February. They're a leading provider of high-performance RF, microwave and wave components and subsystems for the defence and space markets. This week, they have updated on a significant development in its partnership with SpaceX, and Flictronic will increase its supply of advanced E-band SSPA modules to support the ongoing deployment of SpaceX's Starlink constellation, which provides high-speed, low-latency internet to users worldwide. The company has also issued warrants to SpaceX totaling up to 5% of Flictronic's share capital.
Cambridge location software business One Spatial reports another year of significant progress, with revenues continuing to increase, with growth to around £33.4 million and gross margin revenue increasing by over 35%. One Spatial's CEO, Claire Milverton, said, "We've made some good progress across the group this year, and I'm especially pleased that we've developed an increase in software revenues ahead of our expectations, as well as reporting the first significant sales of our higher margin One Street Works SaaS solution, with a further material contract in advanced negotiations. With recurring revenue now accounting to 62% of total revenue, the investments that we've made in our software platform, as well as new sales resource and leadership hires, means we're looking forward to a positive year ahead."
Quantinuum, the multi-unicorn company with Cambridge roots and facilities, has been chosen by US tech giant Nvidia as the founding collaborator to build a world-class accelerated quantum computing research hub in Boston, US. The announcement on the Boston venture follows Quantinuum's recent unveiling of its expanded partnership with Arm's largest shareholder, SoftBank, and collaborations with Microsoft, underscoring the company's accelerating commercial momentum. The NVIDIA Accelerated Quantum Research Center in Boston is designed to integrate leading quantum hardware with AI supercomputers, enabling what is known as accelerated quantum supercomputing. The NVAQC will help solve quantum computing's most challenging problems, ranging from qubit noise to transforming experimental quantum processors into practical devices. Listen back to our interview with Ilyas Khan, the founder of Cambridge Quantum and Chief Product Officer of Quantinuum, in episode 26.
And then we have another space tech story from another previous guest, Super Sharp Space Systems. They've received a £5 million award from the UK Space Agency. The funds will enable an in-orbit demonstration of Super Sharp's unfolding thermal infrared space telescope for climate change mitigation applications. The company has also delivered the first prototype of its ultra-high resolution telescope, Hibiscus, which is scheduled to begin space operations in Q4 2026. With the ability to resolve single buildings and the wide field of view to capture entire cities in a single pass, Super Sharp's mission is to enable climate change mitigation applications, moving them from the drawing board to in-orbit deployment. Specific applications include detecting heat stress in agriculture and monitoring urban heat loss at the individual building level. And again, for more information, you can listen back to the interview with CEO co-founder Marco Gomez-Jenkins in episode 94.
And finally, Innovate Cambridge have announced their Innovation Advisory Council and published their updated strategy. Inspired by thriving ecosystems across the world, they have assembled a world-class science, tech and innovation leadership to share international perspectives and best practices in creating innovation ecosystems and accelerate the social, environmental and economic impact the ecosystem can achieve. Science Minister and Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridor champion Lord Vallance said Cambridge's Advisory Council will bring together a genuinely extraordinary group of leaders and experts. Their insight and deep experience will be an important resource for us to draw upon as we push on with work to unleash the potential of this city and the entire Oxford to Cambridge corridor to improve people's lives. Cambridge Innovate Executive Director Catherine Chapman said, "Cambridge is the beating heart of UK R&D and we want to turn this into a social and economic impact for the whole country. The Advisory Council will help us drive forward this mission and we will link to the press release in the show notes."
Great. So now let's move on to today's episode. As we both mentioned, we were at the launch of Cambridge Tech Week last week, and we recorded the session to bring you the updates, but more specifically, the conversation and presentation on AI that links back to the last piece of news, James, you've just covered. So let's go through the different guests that were at the event and the highlights from the panel discussion.
The event opened with a welcome from hosts Mills and Reeves, with Nick Finlayson-Brown and Doug McDonald showcasing some of the amazing investment opportunities opening up for Cambridge and their work in the AI space advising clients.
Yeah, and then Dr. Nik Johnson, Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough's Combined Authority, welcomed this year's event as a means to produce a platform for collaboration with world-leading experts, visionary innovators and strategic investors participating to drive growth in our tech ecosystem and the region more broadly. This is what Nick said.
For me, Cambridge Tech Week reinforces Cambridge's unique, and I really do mean unique, position as a global hub for technology and business. At the heart of this event lies the uniqueness of the Cambridge tech ecosystem. It serves as a powerful catalyst, bringing together a diverse mix of entrepreneurs. Just last week, we saw the Prime Minister describe AI as the golden opportunity to help streamline the health service as he announced the introduction of AI into part of the healthcare system. For anyone who knows my background as a medic, temporarily jumping into the world of politics, music to my ears to help and to acknowledge that some of the challenges that, as we know, not just in our own NHS health system, there is ambition to solve some of the problems across the whole of the world. However, with these opportunities come significant barriers. I know one of the most pressing issues is that ongoing battle between AI and creatives over copyright. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they can generate content that rivals human creativity. This raises complex questions about ownership, originality, and indeed the value of human creativity. We're a city that's built on creativity, entrepreneurship, but we mustn't lose that and make sure that AI doesn't rob us of that important part of the DNA that makes up this city. So we need to navigate those challenges thoughtfully, ensuring that the rights of creatives are protected while fostering an environment where AI can continue to innovate. Here in Cambridgeshire, we are uniquely positioned to lead the way in addressing these challenges. I mentioned our vibrant tech community, world-class academic institution, and that collaborative culture. And that's a collaborative culture that I like to think is extending into the local government structures. The opportunity now for devolution and the role of the Combined Authority, of which I'm currently the leader and mayor, is one which I think you need to understand is an important part to help. We want to empower you to take that forward, working, of course, with the City Council, County Council, but working as one to deliver growth for all, a 10-year growth plan. By working together, we can harness the power of AI to drive economic growth, improve quality of life, and create a more equitable and sustainable future. Remember, we are in a city where we have to sometimes look at the problems that inequality has shown in terms of access to education and opportunity. And you in the room can help with a tech week like this, challenge that, make things different using AI. So as we launch this week of events, I encourage all of you to engage with the Cambridge tech community, collaborate with one another, and seize the opportunities presented by AI. Together, we can shape the future of technology and ensure that Cambridge, Cambridgeshire, and Peterborough remains at the forefront of innovation.
The Mayor then handed over to Michaela Eschbach, who listeners will remember we spoke to last week.
On behalf of the ecosystem and chaired by Rupert Baines this year, making sure that Cambridge Tech Week delivers what it is meant to deliver. Being a global tech gathering, uniting world-leading experts, visionaries, and strategic investors, giving us the platform that Cambridge deserves and needs to bring global technology together. And what better place to hold this global gathering than Cambridge? Cambridge, a city renowned for our unique ecosystem, as we've just heard from Nick, and as we all know, enabling high-risk innovation in a low-risk environment, supported by a great ecosystem in order to make that happen. And the city known to be not only the UK largest tech cluster, but one of the largest tech clusters in Europe. So what better place than Cambridge? It is the ideal place acting as a catalyst, connecting investors, entrepreneurs, tech pioneers, academia, and government. A catalyst for innovation for Cambridge, East Anglia, the UK, and beyond.
Michaela then handed over to the evening's keynote speaker, Jessica Montgomery from AI at CAM, who leads the University of Cambridge mission when it comes to artificial intelligence.
Thanks for joining us this evening for this conversation about the future of AI in Cambridge and in the UK. And while we continue to be in a moment of breathlessness about potential of AI technologies, this evening's an opportunity for us to come together and take stock of what we need to do as a community to really drive the next wave of AI innovation and to connect that innovation to public benefit. So we've had more than a decade now of rapid progress in AI with waves of hype about the field's technical capabilities. Underneath that hype, there is a genuinely transformational technology. We now today have AI tools that could fundamentally reshape how we are able to interact with information. But what we're not seeing is that capability connecting to public benefit. Over that same period, we have almost a decade of evidence now from public dialogues about what people want from AI. In fact, just in September, Neil and I were 20 minutes down the road in a community centre, asking members of our local community what they wanted to see from AI. Members of the public are consistent in telling us what they want. They want AI technologies that support better healthcare outcomes, that help improve access to education and educational outcomes, that support our public sector workers in delivering critical public services, and more. There's a vision there for AI that genuinely benefits society. At the same time, what they're telling us is that they have concerns about the trajectory for AI development today, that these technologies are democratically unaccountable, that they are feeling that technology is something being done to them rather than with them or for them, and that they want to see a different model of AI innovation. So the question for us is, how can we deliver that different model of AI innovation? How can we come together as a community to make sure that these technical capabilities we have today are really solving real-world problems? Now, as we've already heard from previous speakers, Cambridge has all of the ingredients that it should need to lead that transformation, to develop that new model of innovation. It's home to over 5,000 innovation-driven companies, to world-leading research centres, to a vibrant startup environment, to hospital trusts that are leading the way in deploying AI, and to a range of different research parks and facilitators who are trying to build this community. As we've also heard today, those assets give us an enormous privilege. And we should recognize that privilege and think about how we use that to actually benefit people who are today not feeling the advantages of AI, and to benefit not just ourselves within this existing community, but the people who want to join us locally, people who we need to be serving regionally, and the UK as a whole. How can we go about building that innovation economy that works for people and society? Firstly, and part of what we're doing at AI at CAM is we need to reimagine the way that we're innovating with AI. So at AI at CAM, we're focused on trying to break down the traditional barriers between disciplines and between sectors, to actually connect world-leading researchers with practitioners and policymakers so that we're collaborating in ways that connect AI development to those real-world challenges. We need pathways to participation in AI development that are going to give people access to skills and opportunities to really shape the future of these technologies, to bring public voices into AI development, to bring the voices of hospital workers, teachers, public servants to the forefront of how we're developing and implementing these technologies. And we have public sector bodies locally who are at the forefront of doing that work. And then we need to build bridges between technical innovation and practical implementation. We need an ecosystem that translates across research, industry, and the public sector, creating a powerful innovation flywheel that stimulates demand for AI and delivers a supply of innovative AI technologies. So later this week, AI at CAM and Innovate Cambridge will be putting out a document that's beginning to pull together that vision for AI from Cambridge. It's beginning to say, these are our local assets. These are how we're leading the way in delivering new AI technologies, interdisciplinary research, and how we're translating from innovation to implementation, and how we're building that wider community of benefits for the UK. It's a simple vision in some ways, but one that's complicated to deliver. But this is how Cambridge could help bring AI to life, not just as a technological achievement, but as a genuine force for public good. And we're really excited to be collaborating with Cambridge Tech Week as well as we develop this vision. Alongside the document on Thursday, we'll be launching a call for expressions of interest in a showcase event where we can set out how Cambridge is delivering that vision for AI for public benefit in practice. So watch this space, and we look forward to you engaging with all of you as we develop this mission.
Yeah, it was great to hear from Jessica and really understand how they plan to lead the charge on the challenge of AI. It's definitely something we will be watching for and encouraging others to participate in.
Yeah, it was then panel time led by Innovate Cambridge Director Catherine Chapman. Joining Catherine on the panel and covered in this edit were Neil Lawrence, the DeepMind Professor of Machine Learning at the University of Cambridge, Paul Maltby, Director of Public Service at Faculty, keynote speaker Jess Montgomery, and Robert Pollock, Chief Executive Officer of Cambridge City Council. So let's start with Catherine's introduction.
One of the things that has given Cambridge a competitive advantage recently is that alignment of vision, that collaboration, the fact that actually we can talk about our innovation ecosystem, we can talk about AI, we have a similar and aligned vision. That's led to government leaning into Cambridge, wanting to partner with Cambridge. And actually what we're trying to do now is do something very similar, AI at CAM, with AI at CAM in the AI space as well. So Cambridge can stand competing with other cities in the UK, but actually also competing globally by being aligned. The aim of this session is talking about how can we turn capabilities and all of the exciting research and startups and capabilities that we have in Cambridge into action. So we're going to talk about turning those capabilities into action, and the panel are going to provide some insight into that.
We're now going to pick out some interesting parts of the panel for you, and what better place to start than with Neil Lawrence, and then we'll run the panel discussion from there.
Although the notion of artificial general intelligence is eugenic nonsense, it's as stupid as the notion of an artificial general vehicle. And the obsession with that conversation is enormously damaging internationally and nationally. Don't mistake, this is a transformative technology. This is one of the biggest transformations we're going through, because for the first time, we're talking about people being able to talk to computers. We are already living in a semi-dystopia. A dystopia where professionals have become disconnected, civil administrators, accountants, lawyers, from our underlying information infrastructure, because that information infrastructure has shifted from books and pen and paper and printing to machines. And there are very few people, even the technical experts, don't fully understand their underlying information infrastructure. This is the moment where we get to say, for future Horizon scandals, that right at the outset, the sub-postmaster was able to spot what was wrong in the software. Or when they called the accountant in, they were able to see the software was flawed. Or when they called the lawyer in, they were able to see that this is broken software. Instead of waiting over 20 years to have those people relieved of their criminal convictions. That's the dystopia we're in. And we really face a moment. And Cambridge has the obligation privilege. Because that moment is that we want South Cambridgeshire Council, we want the City Council to be in a position where our workers can get back on top of that information infrastructure, can deliver their jobs to the best of their ability, can serve us in society, and the same in our hospitals, in our schools, across the whole of this city and this region, to deliver digital solutions that work for people, rather than digital solutions that are manufactured for the centre, for the convenience of a few very large corporations. Now, of course, we want to work with those people, and that's all going to be part of it. But mark my words, this is an enormously disruptive technology. And if we in Cambridge are not capable of showing leadership in this area and enabling other cities and towns to follow us, and I get sometimes we think of competition, but I don't want to think of competition. I want to think of if we want the UK to be in the position we want it to be, and if we want the UK to be showing the international leadership that is needed from many countries to deliver these things, then we have to work collaboratively across the country, across the region, with a focus on inclusion, as well as innovation and technical deployment and making money and all those other things, because we have that responsibility and that obligation here.
Thank you, Neil. Paul, would you like to follow that?
So faculty came into existence, 10 years ago, because we thought that AI was going to be a truly transformational technology. We work with organizations to use AI to improve how their organizations work. It's slightly rare in this world to be like 10 years old and long in the tooth. We've seen hype cycles come and go on AI. I'm not counting which number we're in at the moment. There's definitely something, we clearly are in a hype cycle, but exactly as Neil has said, there is a real technology shift happening. We sit at work with 400 odd PhDs, data scientists, machine learning engineers, product service people, delivery people. And we see this technology changing daily, weekly, and the speed between a new development in the science and being able to implement that full flights to make a change is truly astonishing. I've never seen something like that in my career. So my part of the business is I look after the public services team. So I work with teams in government, indeed in local governments as well, to implement AI. And of course, it's not just about generative AI. Everyone's slightly obsessed with the chatbots at the moment and a very useful technology. But of course, AI is a much broader discipline than that. And the use cases are much wider, and it's about using the right tool for the right job at the right time. So this thing is not, as we know in this room, science is real. We're using these things to make a difference in people's lives. But I think exactly as Neil just pointed out, the opportunity, the sense of change in the air here is really quite phenomenal. And this is why it's a pleasure to be part of this community, because it's the networks between people, between organizations, large and small, old and new, between academic and very sort of real world implementation teams that's going to make the difference for the economy, but also for society. And we want to shape that.
I wonder, Paul, whether you can maybe start by taking the question of how do we overcome this disconnect between technical capability and real world implementation?
I think it's a really nice question, because the thing is, this room, more than any other room probably at this point in the evening around the country, it's not surprising that if you're going to actually implement something new in this world, the science really matters. Fundamental to be on top of that, to have the skills and the capabilities to do that. We know that. It's the ground level. It's really important. It's not sufficient. And I think this thing around, I think of it in terms of the work we do. We use AI, applying it to organizations to solve their problems. Having really skilled technicians just isn't enough. You've got to have the people around you in the team and with the client, because these things you've got to understand the needs. So if I put it in context of a piece of work we're doing with the Department for Education at the moment, teachers have that horrible Sunday night thing of lesson planning, homework marking. And of course, these things are really important to the classroom. There's an awful lot of that activity that is not really crucial for those individuals. It's the admin drudge before you get to the last 10, 15, whatever % of that work, which is that really matters for those kids. Now, in order to make that work for people, the last thing you want is just like the technology to be done unto people. And indeed, as was said earlier on, it's really understanding how teachers are working, how that works, how do they use that technology, how do they trust that technology. It's working, yes, absolutely, with cutting edge science, but it's working alongside service designers and product managers and user researchers and delivery managers and others. And of course, the teachers and others involved in that industry themselves to make something that works for real people. I think that's really important. The other bit I will say, I mentioned it earlier, but it's this thing of when you're trying to get things done, in fact, you no longer start with 400 odd people. We're pretty sophisticated these days, but we're always partnering with people. So this thing about the relationships, the other companies, the other people that you've worked with and you trust, those things are really important in order to get your job done. Like again, that education example, we're working with deep education specialists, but we're also working with infrastructure companies and others that are dealing with the things that are not faculty specialists. And I think that's an important part of turning those things from ideas or from science into practical reality. That's where the value lies.
Thank you. Thanks. And just, I think there won't be many people in the room that won't be inspired and touched by your consulting words and maybe want to now do something So what should this Cambridge innovation community, and I include everyone in the room in that, what do we need to do to step up and deliver that value from AI?
In reflecting on that question, and inspired by a conversation I had with the startup founder just yesterday, who had come to Cambridge, had set up their company, it was doing well, but they said that when they arrived, they felt like it was a clique, that it was a closed shop, that they knew that there were these fantastic local connections, that it was hard to find the right foot in the door. And that's really what I think initiatives like Innovate Cambridge, like Cambridge Tech Week, like AI Cam are trying to address, but it's something that we all play a role in because we have this fantastic folk history of innovation in Cambridge about people who met in pubs and came up with something that changed the world. But if we're going to deliver innovation at the scale and pace demanded by some of the challenges we face today in climate and environment and in sustainability and elsewhere, we need to think differently about how we work together, how we can find each other and be open to collaboration. Certainly for our part at AI Cam, we start from the basis that at the moment, the deck is too often stacked against people who want to do really difficult applied interdisciplinary AI research. It's technically difficult. It requires different combinations of expertise. It's not well academically rewarded. And so for our part, what we're trying to do is to try to make it easier for collaborators to find each other, to set up projects and to scale their work. And so we've been supporting the first cohort of AI Ideas challenges, working on challenges in women's health, in mental health, in the use of AI in public services, the use of AI in education, and help begin to break down some of those barriers for collaboration that are long-standing in interdisciplinary research. They're not unique to AI, but AI makes them even more important now to address.
And I wonder whether we can now move on to a little bit about skills.
Maybe 2 points. The first is about just the talent pipeline in the UK, and something where Cambridge is in a particularly unique situation, really, compared to many places. Faculty started out as essentially a training and development company. We found great STEM PhDs in academia and basically turned them into data scientists working in companies and government elsewhere before essentially pivoting to be a services company. And we saw in Matt Clifford's AI Opportunities Action Plan just published the other week, a real focus on getting that high-end talent and thinking through. And I thought that was a really nice report, it's got to be done, but I thought there's a big focus on that. And of course, we talk about skills right across the board, but there's certainly something for the UK, for Cambridge, to be really focusing on some of those we might call the elite skills is definitely part of that story. The other side, I think, is quite interesting because many of the big opportunities you see comes talk about like agentic AI and starting to see those systems we're making at work, giving folks like essentially an admin assistant that's able to actually take limited decisions within certain parameters. It's like the ramifications of these things, I think, are enormous actually. And like compared to the ChatGPT thing, which is interesting, useful now and again, there's another level of value and a technical moment that is backed upon us now. But actually, many of the folks that will be using that won't be in the sort of startup place. They'll be in big organizations. So indeed, like councils, like in governments, like in big processing organizations. Like I said, it's the sort of, we pay less attention on those folks that are the big operational leaders running big organizations and big teams of people. But I think there's something about getting those folks into a place where they're ready to deal with potentially quite disruptive change over the next 5 years is probably also something that's less commented on the skills side.
Thanks. And Neil, you painted this amazing vision of the innovation assets in Cambridge being used to benefit the whole of the UK. I wonder whether you could talk and just elaborate a little bit more on how you see that happening.
Yes, great question, because I think it's key to everything we're doing. And I think it actually resonates with a lot of what people have spoken about across the evening. So I think, what is the limited resource? What is the gold in this new economy? And it is very clearly human attention. Right? We have a limited amount of attention as individuals. More and more information just can't be consumed because we've got fixed attention. The population isn't going to grow massively. And that will remain true. That's the attention economy. It's already here. And what is it's predominantly focused on an attention capture cycle. How do you make money out of these technologies now? You don't fix the difficult and challenging problems that everyone's referred to tonight. You create and solve new problems people didn't know they had. No one knew it was really important to be able to watch a cat while you were walking down the street and bump into people. We didn't know that was a problem like 30 years ago. That's a big problem. Someone solved it. They created the solution as they shared. That was a problem. And that's how you make a lot of money. If you want to make a lot of money, work out a problem that we didn't know we had and solve it, right? If you want to make very little money but help society, look at the pre-existing problems, the wicked problems, education, social care, health, security, and try and work on those problems. And the problem we really face is this cycle has been running for long enough that the way to make all the money is going to solving problems people don't actually have. And that's why when Jess referred to these public dialogues that we've done across a decade, we're getting a consistent response about what they'd like us to fix, and yet you see so little progress. And I have to say, faculty does an enormous job on working on these things and trying to address these things, but it's not fast and easy money. And the way they started as this training institute, developing people and then pivoting, that's not the way to multi-billion pound companies, but it's the way to a sustainable, great company that is supporting the rest of the UK. And we need more faculties. So how do we deal with that? I think the way we deal with that is what I think of, or what we think of as an attention reinvestment cycle. So if we can go in and support South Cambridgeshire Council and Cambridge City Council in their planning department, in supporting them in taking less time to deal with planning applications, which is an ongoing project. If we can save the time of those planning officers, now the thing we ask is that time isn't just going into cost savings. That time needs to going into those planning officers who led those projects. They are now the experts. They need to be the advocates. They need to go back into the community, sharing with the wider community how this is done, because we actually aren't the experts now. They become the experts. And that's the attention reinvestment cycle. So you're saving an amount of their time, and then you're encouraging those people to share what that's saving with others. And that doesn't actually go into the books. And that's the only way it's going to work, because all these jobs, they don't have a lot of money. There isn't an economic signal to support a teacher in teaching religious studies, as came up on Cambridge Radio this morning. There isn't a sort of financial signal for a teacher spending an extra 10 minutes to find out a kid is being abused, right? Those are the human things that we want to draw out. And the only way we can ensure that happens is by sharing and supporting people as best we can to develop their own solutions, and then explaining to them they are now the community advocates. They are the people that need to go out there and share that. And the nice thing about that is that scales, right? That scales exponentially. Now, it takes time to start running. It will be a decade before we get this going. But if we can get this going in Cambridge first, but sharing it with others, then in a decade's time, just like we're hearing about faculty now, 10 years down the line and seeing the progress we make, we will have a society that is equipped to adapt to how these solutions are changing jobs. And so that's what we refer to as the attention reinvestment cycle. And the whole idea is move from the attention capture to attention reinvestment.
Thank you. Thanks, Neil. So we're almost at the end of the panel now. It's actually raced ahead. So I'm going to go around and ask all of the panel a final question, which is, what is the single most important change needed to make Cambridge AI's ecosystem deliver more effectively for public benefit? The single most.
The connection within a team, between a supplier and a client, between different partners who are working on things. It's such an important part of making that. We talk about the science and innovation in ecosystem, but fundamentally it's the thing that's it stays. It's always the people and the culture, and actually making that actually happen and committing to it is the thing that makes a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'd like to give a plug for something. It's called Region of Learning, but it uses digital badges, which connects young people who aren't in formal education with local employers. So anyone here who's an employer who's finding it hard to hire someone in Cambridge, there's lots of young people who aren't connected to this unique ecosystem. You could sign up, you could help offer an opportunity to a young person who's getting different digital badges. And I think the council's commitment is certainly to keep up that emphasis on supporting this amazing ecosystem we have in Cambridge. We're here to champion with the combined authority the economic development of this area.
Thanks, Robert. Neil.
I guess a combination of, yes, by all means, pride, but humility in face of challenge that we are seeing ahead. And the example I want to, we always go on about Newton. I want to go on about Maxwell for a moment. 1851, great exhibition. There was a royal commission to investigate why Cambridge and Oxford hadn't contributed anything. How often are we telling that story? It's humiliating, isn't it? Because all the technology was coming from Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, and Germany, right? That's why they launched the Natural Science Tripos, to try and get us more engaged in practical problems, because those cities all had technical institutions that were engaged with their communities, that were solving the problems of those communities, and that's like why they were innovating. Now, I would argue that almost universally, our universities across the world have caught that Oxford and Cambridge disease. They're not engaged in their role as civic institutions in solving society's problems. They're trying to chase some sort of prestige and Nobel Prizes. Now, by all means, we do that, yes. Listen to the punters. We do that very well. But let's not forget what laid the foundation for that, because when Maxwell came in the 1870s and revolutionized our physics program, he didn't do any of his famous research here. He laid a foundation that makes the Cavendish Lab what it is today. And he did that by laying down a program that ensured the physics was grounded in experiment. He even designed the buildings himself on new museum sites. And that's pride and humility. One of our greatest scientists getting down and dirty with the real problems of society and laying a legacy. And we all have a responsibility to do that.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks, Neil. And one of the ways we can all start doing that is by rejecting the AI BS that we hear about and actually refusing to contribute to that type of empty hype, but instead engage with each other on building AI from the ground up. So not creating a Cambridge vaporware effect, but actually showing that we are a place that celebrates people and organizations that are working to deliver AI applications that have real world benefits for people.
What a great summary from Jess. Let's not add to the hype, but take a leadership position in AI. There's a challenge for everyone.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and let us know what you think is the single most important thing that you could do, and sign up to the AI at Cam and Innovate Cambridge work to bring AI collaboration together.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next week when we'll be talking to Russell Hagger from the startup Vipercore.
Today's show was produced by Carl Homer of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner, Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It'll really help others discover the show.